You are a professional cleaner for the most powerful and ruthless criminal syndicate in the tri-state area, a ghost who exists in the shadows to erase the bloody mistakes of men who play God. Your life is measured in the milliliters of luminol and the precision of a surgical scrub, a silent witness to the carnage that keeps the wheels of the underworld turning. The vibration of the burner phone on your nightstand is not a sound but a physical intrusion, a jagged blade of noise cutting through the heavy, sterile silence of your soundproofed apartment. It is 3:14 a.m., the hour of the wolf, the time when the world is most vulnerable and the sins of the city are most visible. You do not grope for the phone like a normal man would. Your hand moves with a practiced, mechanical fluidity, your fingers closing around the cold plastic before the second vibration can even begin. The screen is a blinding rectangle of white light in the darkness, displaying a single string of encrypted characters that translate to a room number and a high-end hotel address. There is no name, no context, and no room for negotiation. You are the final solution, the man who makes the impossible disappear. And tonight, the syndicate has a problem that only your specific set of skills can solve. You rise from the bed, your movements economical and devoid of the lethargy that plagues others in the middle of the night. Your apartment is a monument to minimalism, a space where nothing is left to chance, and every object has a tactical purpose. You dress in layers of dark synthetic fabrics that do not rustle and do not hold on to scents. You check your kit, a heavy, reinforced briefcase that contains enough chemicals to dissolve a mountain and enough tools to rebuild a crime scene from the molecular level up. You check the seals on your gloves, the charge on your specialized UV lamps, and the sharpness of your scalpels. Every piece of equipment is an extension of your will, a silent partner in the dance of erasure. As you step out into the cool, damp air of the city, the rain begins to fall, a light drizzle that coats the asphalt in a shimmering layer of oil and water. You drive a nondescript sedan, a vehicle designed to blend into the background of 1,000 different streets, a car that the police would never look at twice. The city is a labyrinth of neon and shadow, and you move through it like a predator in its own territory, hyper-aware of every patrol car, every flickering street lamp, and every movement in the periphery of your vision. The Grand Ethelgard Hotel looms over the skyline like a Gothic monolith of glass and steel, a place where the wealthy come to indulge in their most expensive and dangerous vices. You do not use the main entrance. You navigate the service alleys, entering through a delivery bay that you unlocked remotely using a cloned keycard. The air inside the service corridors smells of industrial laundry detergent and stale grease, a stark contrast to the lavender-scented luxury of the guest floors. You take the service elevator, the mechanical hum of the motor the only companion to your thoughts. You are thinking about the variables. A hotel job is always complicated. Too many cameras, too many witnesses, too much high-traffic area. But the syndicate owns the security firm that handles the Ethelgard, and you know that for the next 3 hours, the cameras on the 14th floor will be experiencing a convenient loop of empty hallway footage. When the elevator doors slide open, you are already wearing your mask, a thin, breathable fabric that filters out the metallic tang of blood and the harsh sting of cleaning agents. Room 1402 is at the end of a long, carpeted hallway that feels miles long. You swipe the keycard, and the lock clicks with a sound that feels like a gunshot in the silence. You step inside and close the door behind you, immediately engaging the deadbolt and the security chain. You do not turn on the lights. You click on your tactical flashlight, the narrow beam cutting through the darkness to reveal the aftermath of a violent storm. The suite is a masterpiece of destruction. A heavy mahogany table has been overturned, its surface scarred by deep gouges. Shattered crystal glass litters the floor like fallen diamonds, reflecting your light in 1,000 different directions. And then there is the blood. It is everywhere. It has soaked into the thick, cream-colored carpet, creating a dark, spreading map of a life ended too soon. It has sprayed against the silk wallpaper in a fan-shaped pattern that tells a story of a struggle, a desperate attempt to escape that was cut short by a final, decisive blow. The victim is slumped against the far wall, a man in a bespoke suit that is now ruined beyond repair. You don't care who he was. To you, he is not a person. He is a biological hazard, a collection of data points that must be neutralized. You begin the process with the cold, detached efficiency of a machine. First, the body. You wrap it in a heavy-duty, puncture-resistant shroud, ensuring that no fluids can leak out during transport. You move with a strength that belies your lean frame, hoisting the weight and securing it in a specialized compartment hidden within your equipment cart. Then, the real work begins. You start with the large-scale debris, collecting every shard of glass, every splinter of wood, and every spent casing. You use a magnetic sweep to ensure no metallic trace remains. Then come the chemicals. You apply a proprietary enzyme foam to the bloodstains, watching as it bubbles and hisses, breaking down the hemoglobin and the DNA at a molecular level. You scrub the wallpaper with a solution that removes the biological matter without stripping the color from the silk. You are a restorer of the status quo, a man who returns the world to the way it was before the violence took hold. Your mind is a checklist of protocols: fingerprints, hair follicles, skin cells. You use a vacuum with a HEPA filter that can trap particles smaller than a virus. You move through the room in a grid pattern, leaving no inch unexamined. As you reach the final quadrant of the room, near the bedside table, you notice something that feels out of place. It is a small, sealed envelope tucked deep inside the crevice of a heavy armchair, almost as if the victim had tried to hide it in his final moments. You pick it up with your tweezers, the heavy, high-quality paper feeling substantial even through your gloves. There is no writing on the outside, no return address, no name. You should ignore it. Your orders are to clean the room, not to investigate the crime. But something in your gut, a survival instinct honed over a decade of working for monsters, tells you that this envelope is the reason the room is covered in blood. You carefully slit the seal with a scalpel. Inside is a series of printed documents and a small, high-capacity flash drive. You scan the pages, and the blood in your veins turns to ice. These are not just ledgers or bank statements. These are detailed dossiers on the highest-ranking members of the syndicate, including the board of directors and the chairman himself. But it's more than that. The documents outline a systematic plan to liquidate the syndicate's current assets and transition the entire operation into a legitimate corporate entity, a process that involves the removal of every single person who knows too much about the old ways. Your name is on the list. You are categorized as a high-priority liability. The realization hits you like a physical blow. You aren't just cleaning up a mess tonight, you are cleaning up the preamble to your own execution. The syndicate isn't protecting you. They are using your skills to erase the evidence of their transition before they erase you. You feel a sudden sharp prickle of awareness on the back of your neck. It is a sensation you have learned to trust above all else, the feeling of being watched. You do not turn your head. You keep your movement steady, continuing to scrub the carpet as if nothing has changed, but your eyes are darting toward the large floor-to-ceiling window that overlooks the city. The rain is heavier now, blurring the lights of the buildings across the street. You look for the signs: a window that is slightly open, a shadow that doesn't move with the wind. And then you see it. A tiny momentary glint of light from the building directly opposite, about 20 floors up. It is the unmistakable reflection of an optical lens, a sniper. In that split second, the world slows down. You know the physics of the shot. The shooter is waiting for you to stand up, to offer a clear target through the tempered glass. They want a clean kill, a single shot to the head that will leave you slumped over the very mess you were sent to clean. You don't give it to them. Instead of standing, you drop flat to the floor, rolling toward the heavy mahogany desk you righted earlier. A fraction of a second later, the window shatters. The sound is a dull thud, followed by the musical tinkle of falling glass, the high-velocity round passing exactly where your chest had been a moment before. The shooter is using a suppressor, but the impact is unmistakable. You are in a kill box, and the exit you came through is almost certainly covered by a secondary team. You need to move, and you need to move now. You don't panic. Panic is for the victims you clean up. You are a professional. You reach into your kit and pull out 2 smoke canisters, pulling the pins and rolling them into the center of the room. Thick, grayish-white smoke begins to billow out, filling the suite in seconds and obscuring the sniper's line of sight. You stay low, crawling toward the bathroom. You know the architecture of the Ethel Guard. Every suite has a maintenance access panel behind the vanity mirror, a relic of the building's older plumbing system. You use a crowbar to wrench the mirror from the wall, the sound of the metal groaning hidden by the hiss of the smoke. Behind it is a dark, narrow shaft filled with pipes and cables. It is a tight fit, but you are lean and driven by a sudden, fierce desire to survive. You pull yourself into the shaft just as you hear the suite's front door being kicked in. Heavy boots thud on the carpet. Voices, muffled by the smoke and the walls, bark orders. They are looking for a body. They won't find one. The shaft is a vertical labyrinth of rust and cold metal. You climb down, your fingers gripping the oily pipes, your muscles screaming as you navigate the narrow space. You can hear the elevators moving in their shafts nearby, the hum of the building's life continuing as if nothing has happened. You drop down 3 floors, your heart hammering against your ribs like a trapped bird. You find another access panel and push it open, emerging into a darkened laundry room on the 11th floor. The air is thick with the smell of bleach and hot steam. You shed your outer layer of clothing, revealing a plain, dark tracksuit underneath. You look like a staff member or a guest heading to the gym. You move quickly, avoiding the main hallways, heading instead for the service stairs. You know they will be watching the exits, but they won't be watching the trash chute. The trash chute is a vertical tunnel of filth, a direct line to the basement compactors. It is a desperate move, but you are out of options. You wrap your hands in heavy rags and slide into the opening, the world turning into a blur of darkness and the stench of decay. You slide down, using your feet to slow your descent against the metal walls, the friction burning through your shoes. You hit the bottom with a jarring impact, landing on a mountain of discarded linens and food waste. You are bruised and covered in grime, but you are alive. You scramble out of the compactor just before it cycles, the heavy hydraulic ram groaning as it crushes everything in its path. You are in the sub-basement, a cavernous space filled with humming boilers and massive electrical panels. You find a service tunnel that leads toward the city's subway system, a secret passage used by maintenance crews and occasionally by people like you who need to disappear. You emerge 2 blocks away from the hotel, climbing out of a manhole in a dark alleyway. The rain is still falling, washing some of the filth from your clothes. You don't go to your car. You know it will be tagged. You don't go to your apartment. It will be a death trap. Instead, you walk. You move through the city, staying in the shadows, using the crowds of late-night revelers as cover. You need a safe haven, and there is only one person you can trust. You head toward the industrial district, to an old, weathered warehouse that looks like it hasn't been used in decades. Inside is the workshop of Old Man Elias, a former signals intelligence officer who now makes his living as an informant and a black market technician. He owes you his life from a job 5 years ago in Marseille, and tonight you are calling in that debt. The workshop smells of ozone, solder, and old paper. Elias is a man who looks like he is made of parchment and wire, his eyes sharp and suspicious behind thick glasses. He doesn't ask questions when he sees your state. He simply points to a chair and hands you a bottle of cheap whiskey. You give him the flash drive and the documents. You tell him to find out everything. While he works, you clean yourself up in his rusted sink, the cold water shocking your system back to a state of hyperfocus. You stitch a gash on your arm with a needle and thread from his kit, the pain a grounding force. You are no longer the cleaner. You are the mess that refused to be swept away. Hours pass in a blur of digital noise and the clicking of keys. Elias finally looks up from his monitors, his face pale. He tells you that the documents are real. The syndicate isn't just going corporate. They are being bought out by a multinational defense contractor that wants their logistics network for arms smuggling. The cleanup of the old guard is a condition of the sale, but there is more. The flash drive contains the private keys to the syndicate's offshore accounts, hundreds of millions of dollars in untraceable cryptocurrency. The man you cleaned up tonight wasn't just a victim, he was the syndicate's chief accountant who was trying to defect to the feds with the keys. The syndicate didn't just want him dead, they wanted the drive. And now you have it. You have the leverage to burn the entire organization to the ground, or to buy yourself a new life. But you know the syndicate. They won't stop until you are dead. The only way to be free is to strike at the head of the snake. You and Elias spend the next few hours planning. You need to get into the chairman's private estate, a fortress in the countryside surrounded by censors, guards, and a small army of loyalists. It is a suicide mission for anyone else, but you are the man who knows how they think. You know their blind spots because you are the one who usually fills them. Elias provides you with a set of scrambled comms, a high-frequency jammer, and a customized silenced pistol. You don't need much else. You are a ghost, and a ghost doesn't need a heavy arsenal. The drive to the estate is a journey into the heart of darkness. You steal a nondescript SUV from a long-term parking lot, the engine purring as you navigate the winding back roads. The estate is a sprawling mansion of stone and glass, perched on a cliff overlooking the ocean. It is beautiful, and it is a tomb. You park a mile away and approach on foot, moving through the dense woods with the silence of a shadow. You use the jammer to create a localized dead zone in the perimeter sensors, slipping through the fence during a scheduled patrol rotation. You move across the lawn, staying low, your eyes scanning for the infrared beams of the security cameras.